This is Canada, and this is Montreal. Today we're gonna talk about transportation and mobility in Montreal. This work is presented by Ewan, Eduard, and Ricardo. Montreal sits on Montreal Island, the largest island in the Hochelaga archipelago, where the St. Lawrence and Ottawa rivers meet. The island is about 50 kilometers long and 16 kilometers wide, with Mount Royal rising at its center, reaching roughly 233 meters across its three peaks. Greater Montreal includes the main island plus several nearby islands and municipalities along the St. Lawrence River, forming a dense metropolitan area that includes cities like Laval and Longueuil. The city has 1.7 million residents, and this metropolitan area reaches 4.2 million residents. It's Canada's second largest metropolitan area after Toronto. The region has four distinct seasons, with a humid continental climate, bringing very cold snowy winters and warm, humid summers. Winter ice on the St. Lawrence slows navigation and freight, while Mount Royal's steep terrain creates mobility barriers. Snow and ice also make sidewalks and bus stops hard to or impossible to use. Montreal's public transport relies on STM, which operates metro and buses, and ARTM, which coordinates regional planning and fares to unify the system. The Urban and Mobility Plan 2050 proposes 200,000 new homes, major public transport expansion, including over 180 kilometers of tramways, and stronger environmental protection.
Montreal's transportation story begins in the mid-19th century. In 1861, the first horse-drawn streetcars connected emerging neighborhoods and quickly became essential to daily life. A major breakthrough came in 1992, when the system was electrified, making service faster, cleaner, and more reliable. Through the early 20th century, Montreal developed one of Canada's largest streetcar networks, supporting rapid urban expansion. After the Second World War, rising car ownership brought a major change. By 1959, the entire streetcar system had been shut down and replaced by buses, which became the dominant surface mode. A new chapter began in 1966 with the opening of the Montreal Metro, built in anticipation of Expo 67. Over the following decades, metro expansion supported densification and offered an effective alternative to driving. Regional commuter rail also grew, strengthened by the creation of the AMT in 1995, later becoming EXO. More recently, Montreal has embraced sustainable mobility, the launch of Bixi in 2009, the expansion of the cycling network in the 2010s, and the 2023 inauguration of the REM, a driverless electric rail system, have all reshaped how people move across the region. Today, Montreal's transportation system is defined by its diversity. Public transit includes the metro, buses, commuter rail, and now the REM. These modes form the backbone of mobility in the metropolitan region. Active transportation also plays an important and growing role. Montreal has nearly 1,000 kilometers of bike infrastructure, and walkability is strong in dense central neighborhoods like Plateau Mont-Royal, Ville-Marie, and Villeray. Suburban areas, however, remain more car-oriented, with fewer dedicated cycling and pedestrian connections. Despite investments in sustainable modes, the private car remains dominant. As of 2025, about 81% of commuters travel by car, while public transit accounts for roughly 12%, walking around 5%, and cycling about 1%. Newer mobility options such as ride-sharing, car-sharing, and e-scooters help complement transit and reduce car dependence, especially for short trips. Montreal's mobility network depends on several major hubs that link different modes and support regional and international travel. The largest rail terminal is Gare Centrale, located downtown, which connects the REM, exocommuter trains, and intercity services. The region's main air gateway is Montreal-Trudeau International Airport, situated about 20 kilometers from the city center. Thousands of passengers move through this terminal daily, making it one of the most important transportation facilities in Quebec. Within the city, multimodal hubs such as McGill Station and Lionel Roux illustrate the importance of integrating metro lines, buses, and active transport. These hubs make transfers easier and help ensure seamless connectivity across Montreal's diverse transportation system.
Now, let's talk about the social dimensions of mobility. Mobility in Montreal is not just about getting from a point A to a point B. It's also about knowing how to live with the problems associated with disruptions. For example, women who perform 65% of care-related trips like childcare or grocery shopping are hit hardest by construction projects like REM. Why? Because their trips are more complex, often chaining multiple stops, and they rely more on public transit and walking. When the Deux Montagnes line closed, women in Laval suddenly faced 30 minutes longer commutes, squeezing their already tight schedules. Safety is another issue. 45% of women report feeling unsafe on their tours, compared to just 20% of men. Low-income neighborhoods face their own challenges. In Montréal Nord, residents have 30% fewer transit options and spend 15% more time of their income on transport. The REM's construction has been particularly disruptive for rerouted travelers, former Deux Montagnes users, but also offers long-term hope. Meanwhile, the pandemic exposed even deeper inequities. Transit ridership dropped by 60%, and while cycling surged, winter issues led to a 20% decline in riderships. These social dimensions show that mobility is not neutral. Women, low-income groups, and people with disabilities experience Montreal's transport system differently, and policies must address these gaps to build a truly equitable city. And now let's talk about the cluster and economic activities. So Montreal is a polycentric city with economic activities spread beyond its downtown core. The Central Business District, also called CBD, hosts more than 500,000 jobs and generates approximately 20% of Quebec's GDP. The key secondary hubs include Quartier de l'Innovation, a tech and research center with more than 150 startups, and Technopark Montréal, an aerospace and IT hub contributing of 10 billion annually. Residential areas are also very diverse because there are some with a high density, like for example Plateau Mont-Royal, with approximately 15,000 inhabitants per square kilometers, while there are also some with a low density, like for example Montréal Nord, with only 3,000 square kilometers. This difference causes some inequalities about transport because the East End neighborhoods face 30% fewer transit options, so it limits accessibility and the right to city. But the city of Montreal is mainly built on three main axes, which are Boulevard René Lévesque with approximately 200,000 daily transit users, but also Descaries Expressway with approximately 150,000 daily vehicles, and finally the Metro Line 2 with approximately 300,000 daily riders. The REM, a 67 kilometers light rail network, is Montreal's largest public transit project since 1966 metro. It will serve around 4 million residents, but has disrupted travel during construction, particularly for former users of the suspended Deux Montagnes line. And now let's talk about the challenges and the innovations in Montreal. At first, the challenges, and we will begin with inequality because approximately 40% of low-income households in the east end of the city do not have access to reliable public transportation. These neighborhoods are mainly this one, and this one. Another big challenge for the city of Montreal is the winter mobility because during this season, cycling drops of 60% and only 30% of sidewalks are cleared of snow. Also, even if REM is a solution for the future, in the present it causes disruptions, and these constructions has led to increased traffic, noise and air pollution, particularly affecting residents near construction zones that are mainly the poorer ones. And finally, maybe the biggest challenge for the city is the environmental impact of transport, because in 2023, transport produces around 40% of Montreal's GIG emissions. But these issues have solutions. For example, the REM is, of course, the main solution because it will reduce transport time and add 26 stations, mainly in the suburbs of the city. but also about the problems of winter cycling. 200 kilometers of snow cleared bike lines are targeted by 2027, depending to the city. But new technology, they bring some solutions about smart mobility. For example, the platform Bixi, which rents some bikes in the city, has a quite good popularity because around 7 million rides per year are registered in Montreal. And finally, this is another view because for the moment we only talked about politic solutions, but there are also some solutions that come from inhabitants. For example, community projects, like for example Ruelle Verte, that already transformed more than 100 alleys into pedestrian-friendly spaces. Can be like new solutions.
Montreal's mobility system is evolving through major investments such as the REM, expanded cycling networks, and long term sustainability plans. However, the city's experience shows that technical progress alone isn't sufficient. Social acceptance, equity, and transparent governance are crucial for successful mobility transitions. Future transport development must combine infrastructure improvements with stronger community engagement to ensure benefits are shared across all neighborhoods.